Yeah, this is Ricky Riccardi, the Director of Research Collections for the Louis Armstrong House Museum, and I'm here with Hyland Harris, who will be a regular contributor, telling you the inside stories that he's learned during his time here on Louis, Lucille, the neighbors, the neighborhood, and everything else. Hyland, thanks for being here, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your background?
Okay, my name is Hyland Harris. I am a drummer. Uh, I've studied with a lot of great drummers over the course of my life. Tim Kennedy, you might know of him from The Chase, and with Dexter and Wardell. Uh, Joe Hunt, he was with Bill Evans and Gil Evans, and he was Bill Evans, and he was with George Russell and Stan Getz, and then Vernel Fournier, who was with Ahmad Jamal. He was like one of my great teachers. Uh, I went to Berklee College of Music. I got a degree in music production and engineering. So out of college, I was working in various studios throughout New York City. I managed record stores. I went on tour as a sound musician with Branford Marsalis, a sound technician with Branford. I've written liner notes, and then I went back to graduate school and I got my degree in jazz history and research at Rutgers with Louis Porter, and from there I started to work at the Louis Armstrong House Museum. I've been there. It'll be 10 years this month, believe it or not. And the things that I've learned, I knew about Louis Armstrong. I had, I don't know, maybe 15 records, maybe tops, before I started working there. I had a cursory knowledge of Louis from the few books that I read. I stole My Life in New Orleans from my high school library. I still have that copy, by the way. I would never tell Cogswell that. But then, but when I started working at the house, I was completely blown away about just the worldwide Louis Armstrong. There's almost like a web of Louis Armstrong, just not fans, but adherents, musicians who devote their lives to studying what exactly Louis was doing, historians such as yourself, collectors, regular fans who just love the music, people who collect videos, people who collect film, people from all over the world who donate their dead parents' collections, and there will be autographs by Louis Armstrong in them. But the most important thing that I've learned is that people show up to that museum and they know who he is. They when you go to like music school, or even when you do like gigs as a jazz musician, you feel a little sequestered from society, in the sense of, it's a niche audience, or you're kind of playing to kind of gratify your own self-interest, or a few people who are there who have similar interests. But then, you work at this museum and people from all over the world show up, from Australia or Africa or Europe, and they all know about this guy to some level of detail. Some are extremely fan based, some they're just in love with this message that this man had put out for decades and decades. It's incredibly humbling. And the longer I'm there, the more I learn, not just about him, but about his ability to connect to people over generations. There's diehard fans like yourself who weren't even alive when Louis had passed away. There's precious neighbors that were around. We have direct contact with them. It's just endless. The amount of academic research that goes into him is incredible, and I still feel it's lacking. It's an open field for study, from a musicological study, from a historical study, from a sociological study. his influence on film, his influence in which mirrored the Great Migrations, just on and on and on. This guy was bigger than jazz.